How's it going, everybody? My name's Seth Martin with GoGuide. I'm here with Liz Shull from Warriors in Quiet Waters Foundation. Thanks for coming on, Liz. We love to have you.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to chat today and yeah.
Yeah, so Liz and I got connected probably about 6 months ago, would you say? It's been about
Yeah, I
half a
think
year.
so.
We were talking a little bit about this, or you had brought up how we first got connected. It was actually through Son Tao. I don't remember, but I had met him,
Yeah.
at one of the fly fishing shows and remember him making a post about one of his partnerships with Warriors in Quiet Waters. And I said, this is very cool. Like, I'd love to get in touch with this organization. And he mentioned that Liz was the girl to talk to over there. She's the one who handles business. So, um, ever since then, it's been a great connection. And Liz, you've been super helpful with getting us everything we need. How um
Yeah, that's
how
funny. I've
originally
actually
oh, go
forgotten that
ahead.
it was Santao that made the connection.
Yeah, I was gonna say, how did you originally get in contact with him?
So he's been a participant on some of our programs at Warriors and Quiet Waters. I know he's come through our initial program, and then I believe last year he was out on the Smith River, which is a permitted river here in Montana. Beautiful. It's about 5 or 6 day float out in the wilderness. Just a really gorgeous float. And so we run a program down there with Warriors, and I believe Santao was on there. And then, as you mentioned, his presence online, he really uses as a tool to help spread the word about his experience with Warriors in Quiet Waters. And we're really thankful for that too.
Yeah, he's just a great guy all around, and puts out some great content. So thank him for making this connection happen, no doubt.
Yeah.
So Liz, tell me about yourself a little bit more. Have you always been a Montana native? Did you move there? And how did you get into fly fishing and this wonderful organization that you work with?
Yeah, happy to. So I'm not from Montana, alike to many people here in Bozeman, but I live here in Bozeman, Montana. I've been here, I believe, about 6 or 7 years. I grew up in northern Illinois, actually, so probably in Montana terms, just down the road from some of you guys. Grew up right on the Wisconsin border and spent my summers going up to Wisconsin. I grew up mountain bike racing, so that was kind of always our drive up north. That and then the lake life. And so I first found fly fishing. I mean, I grew up fishing with my parents and growing up around water and on a small little lake in our hometown. Grew up fishing, and it wasn't until college as I mentioned, I was a mountain bike racer, and in college I had a pretty bad accident and essentially exploded my knee,
Oh my
tore the
gosh.
whole gamut of ACL, MCL, LCL, and meniscus, I believe. So it put me out for the summer, and as a person who finds a lot of joy in adrenaline sports and being outside, I was pretty bummed for the summer, but it was honestly the greatest gift I've ever received. One of my friends said, "Quit complaining. Here's a fly pack, a box of flies, and a rod and a reel." And he told me to go stand in the river and figure it out. I think he gave me a couple pointers, but I thank him all the time because it was that summer that totally allowed me to slow down, and I picked up fly fishing, and I absolutely fell in love with it. I love it for the aspect primarily of just getting outside and on the river. I mean, trout don't live in ugly places, so
That is
I
true.
really love being on the water. It's not for me. It's not about catching the fish. It's just getting to the water and doing that deep breath. So that's a little bit how I found Warriors in Quiet Waters. In my own way, I found healing through experiences in nature, mostly physically, but also that mental side. Being recognizing that adrenaline isn't doesn't have to be the answer for all of my sports. So I moved out to Bozeman after university in Colorado and spent a couple years working with AmeriCorps out here. Moved me down to Ennis, Montana, which is a little fly fishing mecca as well. Beautiful little town with even more beautiful people. And I yeah, spent a year there and really picked up fishing on my own. And then when I moved back to Bozeman, I found a position with Warriors in Quiet Waters. And it was in a position that I was looking to work in, which is development. So more on the fundraising, events, marketing side of things. And I just completely align, my values align with what Warriors in Quiet Waters does and who they serve. And so it just felt like a very natural fit.
Right. I love that comparison you make between, your mountain biking experience, almost like chasing the adrenaline to going over to fly fishing to where, you can still kind of experience that adrenaline when you hook up to a fish. But on the other hand, the peace and quiet and serenity you get from just being out in the water and out in the woods, just out in nature, you kind of get to experience both end of the parallel through fly fishing, and I think that's what a lot of people chase, like you and I and many other people around the world. Um, so as far as Words and Quiet Waters goes, they'd always been started out of Montana, though, correct? Or had they
Yeah, we
done
were
other
founded
work previously?
here. Yeah, great question. We were founded here 16 years ago in the Gallatin Valley by Colonel Eric Hastings and his wife, Colonel Hastings served in Vietnam, and when he came back, excuse me, he and his wife were up on a fishing trip in Canada, actually, and they were sitting on the river fly fishing, and there was a moment where his wife Jean looked to him and said, "I really wish that we could bring all combat veterans to this experience, what we're experiencing this week, fly fishing in the Northwoods." And so with a few more conversations and support behind them, they decided to launch Warriors in Quiet Waters. At first, we started as a fully volunteer-run nonprofit, so no staff on board, but the volunteers were the drivers, they were also the guides, they were also the fundraisers. We ran the programs out of like VRBOs or Airbnbs and just rented wherever would really house us. And we had volunteer moms on every week that would help cook these robust home cooked meals that the men and women who served just craved when they came back. Those volunteer roles, the cooks are called the moms, and the role as the mom still stands today in our
I love
organization,
that.
whether you're male or female in this role. We call them moms and dads. And actually, I just recently heard from one of the dads that he prefers the name mom because of just the weight that it carries. Mothers in our lives are so critical and important for growth, healing, home feeling. So the moms and dads are at the end of the driveway when the guys and gals arrive, even to this day, 16 years later, arms wide open, welcoming them to the experience for the week, cooking those meals. We have moved our meals from really heavy, like every warrior's eating 3 steaks, to maybe a more nutrition minded, gut, brain health
Yeah,
minded thing, because a lot of our warriors do come to us with post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injuries, and the more research that comes out, it's a lot clearer that can be really tied, that and sleep health can be really tied to what we're eating. So I say all that is, yeah, we were founded here in the Gallatin Valley on the waters here. We fish all around, thanks to our public lands and our public waters, along with private landowners who are opening up their properties for us to experience as well.
yeah. I was gonna ask because I obviously now you guys have the private property that you can house and bring veterans to. But back when you were doing these VRBO Airbnb type styles, was it mostly all public water that you guys were taking these veterans out on?
From what I know, yeah, it was mostly public. We did some fishing down in the Madison Valley, and we had a ranch down there that would take us in for the week, and we'd fish the Madison River. We were out on the Gallatin. There's some little creeks around Montana too that we've walk waded. Up near Big Sky, there's some creeks up there. So I've only been with the organization for close to 3 years now, so I don't know the entirety of the history in terms of where we were fishing, but As you're probably aware, in the whole United States, waters and are growing, becoming more populated. I think I just saw a notification that hoot owl, which means that they limit the time that you can fish on certain rivers here, just went into effect recently due to the water temperature and the daily
Right.
temperatures. So all of that being said, it's been really a treat to be able to have water that we know we're going to be able to fish when our waters are a little overcrowded, and just to really provide that gold standard experience for the guys coming out here.
Yeah. Of course, we want to look out for the environment that produces so much for us. So that's important, especially as we get into
Yeah.
these hotter months of obviously June, July, August tends to get those water temps pretty high. So, you said you'd been on for about 3 years now, Liz. Um, how did you first get introduced to these people? Was it something you were out seeking, or had they reached out to you, or kind of just stumbled upon them on the street, or how did that introduction happen?
Yeah, at university I studied hydrology. It was called watershed science. So I always had this passion for water and communities and how the two intertwined and kind of coexisted and took care of each other. So when I moved to Montana, I worked, as I mentioned, with AmeriCorps for an organization here in town called Montana Conservation Corps. They do amazing work all across, at this point, the western United States, but primarily based in Montana, working with healthy waterways, conservation, trail work, kind of the whole gamut. But when my position there was coming to an end, it was just contractual. I was looking for some type of fundraising position. I wanted to stay in near Bozeman because of just how special this place is. And so Warriors in Quiet Waters had a development associate position open. Basically walked up into my interview and said, I don't know one thing about this field of profession in terms of the fundraising side, but I believe I have all the natural strengths and qualities that this position requires. So if you just teach me how to do the numbers, I'm here and I'm your girl. So it don't know why, but they took a chance, and we've since grown our organization staff wise. But I just feel really lucky to have jumped on right on the cusp of that growth to really see the direction that we're going.
Yeah, 100%. Um, and you had mentioned before, obviously, Warriors in Quiet Waters just went through a little rebranding purpose. And before this, I was reading a little bit about that change on your guys' website there. And it mentioned around 2019 is when the organization started to experience this change. And it sounds like that's kind of right when you had joined the organization. Can you talk a little bit about that, what that change looked like with the veterans coming on?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you mentioned, back in 2019, we started partnering with the Syracuse University Institute for IVMF, which is Institute for Veteran and Military Families. And they've been an amazing partner with us for the past couple years, primarily because they've been able to help us identify the gaps that our program has shown. But what they did is they came in and for 2 years they interviewed all of our participants. They'd send a pre FX, which we call them FXs, which stands for fishing experience. We also have other experiences I can talk about a little bit after this, but in case you hear me saying FX, kind
Yeah.
of bring you in on our lingo there. But so Syracuse sent these pre FX surveys and then a post FX survey, and then they'd send one about 6 to 8 months later to try and see what the initial experiences were that our participants were gaining or losing from coming to Warriors in Quiet Waters Ranch here in Bozeman and experiencing this week. And then kind of a longer term, long range view, what were they experiencing months out? And was it still as effective and what we wanted? And so what we found from that was really interesting. We found that initially, right after their FX, we saw a huge improvement in sleep, in mental clarity, in decrease in anger or ability to control anger better, an increase in family relationships, relationships with spouse, an increase in drive for whatever they were doing, whether they were still in active duty or had been retired or moving on to their chapter 2, and which was really great. That's what we all hoped for, right? But then we
Yeah,
saw
it's
these
amazing.
longer range results come back, and a lot of them had dropped. It was that initial, they came out here, they had this high, they got this experience, they felt they had this community of volunteers that were here on the week they were here, warrior companions that they were connected with for life, a staff that we all call each other family. But it was those long range results that piqued our interest on wanting to adjust to make sure that we were providing programs that were essentially the gold standard for the people coming through our program. We know it takes a lot of trust for people to hop on an airplane, which can be difficult in itself, fly across the country to meet people you've never met, to go to a place you've never been. And we just thank everybody for giving us that trust. So we wanted to make sure that we were giving the best that we could back. So I say all of that because once we received those results, we launched an 18-month initiative planning process that would alter what our programs look like. And that was all based on feedback from hundreds of warriors that have come through our program, those survey results. Our chief strategy officer met with subject matter experts across all different fields to conduct and collect all of this data and essentially research on what would make our programs stand the test of time, and allow warriors to have this greater impact than just, I had this great week and I'm good for a month, but then my sleeping goes bad and my drive goes away. So all of that being said, we built a program that launched this past April, and it's called Built for More. And it's not extremely different from what our initial fishing experience has looked like in the past. In fact, that has stayed exactly the same. But rather than it being a one and done program, or guys or gals come out here for 1 week and experience this, they're actually go through a 9 to 12 month process that's facilitated both online and then includes 2 experiences out here in Montana, or actually across the country. We have a couple different programs, but so that looks like. And we again launched in April, so we don't have an entire year of data and testimonies from it yet, but the really initial results that we've been seeing over the past 2 or 3 months of programming have been exponential. And that's not only staff saying that, it's the volunteers involved who have been involved for 16 years. It's the warriors themselves. But what this Built for More program looks like is the first month they launch and they meet 1 to 2 times online as a cohort. Cohort is 6 guys or gals. And we also do a caregiver cohort, so anybody who is a caregiver to a post 9/11 combat veteran. And so that first month they're meeting virtually, kind of getting to know each other, learning about what the year is going to hold, and then they come out to Montana for their initial FX, where they are outfitted head to toe with fly fishing gear that they get to keep and take home. That's always been a staple of our program.
That's
Because
great.
we don't want them to just have these lovely 2 days, 4 days, 5 days out here and then never pick up a fly rod and use the scientifically proven results of fly fishing as healing. So they come out here for that week, and then the next 6 to 8 to 9 months, they do facilitated training online monthly as a cohort. So that includes nutrition, mental, physical, spiritual trainings that just allow warriors to essentially, I like to simplify it by just saying deciding what chapter 2 looks like. If you have any veterans in your life, you'll probably understand this, but for so long, I mean, a lot of the people we work with have worked in the military for over 20 years. We just last year, 2 years ago, celebrated 20 years of since 9/11, and so a lot of people are retiring out of the military, and that's all they've ever known. You know, the military's given them housing, it's given their family security, it's given them food on the table, taxes, all that stuff that the military takes
Right.
care of, and then it's from my understanding, it's a little 1 week exit out of the military, and it's good luck in the real world. And
Right.
so, along with figuring out all of that, once retirement comes, there's also this whole aspect of, well, what do I want to do next? A lot of people's careers in the military are so purpose driven, and then getting out and not knowing how to use those tools and skill sets that they have. So, um, that's, I think, a huge population of who we serve, but thinking about like that 6 to 9 months is kind of helpful with that. If there's somebody who wants some type of financial training, we do a warm handoff to connect them with somebody who is a professional in that realm. And then after that 6 to 9 months online virtual, they come back for a capstone project, which is, or program, which is one of our alumni programs. So that's anywhere from ice fishing, conservation. Um, we do the Smith River, we do canoeing, we have a backpacking week. And so they get to all come back as a cohort again and experience this. Not a wrap up, because our programs, as I mentioned, aren't a one and done. We so often have warriors come through our program and come back as volunteers or come back as a on one of our alumni programs. So it's really it's a community that they're part of now. So that's my long-winded answer as to why we rebranded our
Oh,
visual
that is
identity.
amazing.
You know, it's, as I just mentioned, all of that has changed, and it's changed primarily because of who the people we are serving. Over 16 years, the people that we have been serving have changed, as I mentioned, from coming straight out of the hospital with bandage wounds still on them to trying to figure out what a thriving life looks like for themselves and their families after they're out of the service. So,
Right, 100%. And um, that's absolutely amazing. I love what you guys are doing with the Build for More program and really trying to capitalize on more the long term, effects. Although obviously your guys' program is open, to anyone to return, like you said, whether it's as volunteer work or just to be a part of it again. That's absolutely amazing. So for those, you said the Build for More is typically 6 to 9 months, um, and it's in typically groups of six. Do those groups of six people typically would stay in contact, like, are those six the same six that go through the entire thing, or do they often split up and maybe go with different groups? Um, how does that necessarily work? Because I can imagine if it is the same six staying through, then they then have plenty of friends that they could then talk to even after the program ends.
yeah. Yeah, the goal is 100% of the time to try and get everybody to stay with the cohort the whole entire time. So they do those monthly online meetings together, and they really, as we're doing placements throughout the year, it's the whole caveat too is everyone's so busy in schedules and families and summers and winters, all of that. So I'd say that's the one caveat to when somebody might not attend the same capstone project, but for the most part, we have everybody staying as the same cohort. And I think, as you can imagine, that's the strength of it too, right? It's this community, it's this brotherhood or sisterhood that people get to create that they had in the service that they might not experience within their current communities. And so I think the more time you spend within the Warriors and Quiet Waters community, that is so evident that, I mean, I'll be in the airport and I'll see one of our logoed shirts and I'll point it out, I'll say hey, and it's just it's a stranger that so quickly becomes a friend, and even closer than that, it's a shared experience. So I think we do our best to keep everybody together.
Right, that's what it's all about. They're not only making these connections with the amazing staff at Wars and Quiet Waters, but with other people in similar scenarios to them going forward. So I'm curious. I'm curious when these veterans get to, when they come to do their in person. What does a typical, first day look like going on through the entire? the entire experience?
Yeah. The first day is always so fun. It's like Christmas. As I mentioned, everybody flies in and they fly or drive in. We do serve warriors from across the entire country. As I mentioned before, our programs are 100% cost free to our participants. So whatever I'm about to mention on what happens during that week is completely taken care of thanks to generous donors. And so they fly in Monday to Bozeman Airport. We have volunteers on standby to pick them up. We drive them up to a Quiet Waters Ranch, which is located about 15 miles north of Bozeman, just up in the Bridger foothills. If anyone listening is familiar with Bozeman, we're just north up off Spring Hill. And we have Quiet Waters Ranch there, which has 3 ponds on the property and is 114 acres. So it's a decent sized property. We have a pretty large lodge that we house everybody in, and then a volunteer barn. And if you go to our website, we've got some pictures and videos and some more information about Quiet Waters Ranch. But Quiet Waters Ranch is where they're first welcomed. So warriors show up on Monday around 2:00 in the afternoon. We have a Sims representative come up to the ranch, and we outfit the warriors head to toe with all the gear they're going to need for the entire week. So, when it's midsummer and it's pretty warm out, we're outfitting them with full waders and boots, but maybe it's more some like light sun hoodies. In the fall and the winter time or the spring, we're outfitting with heavier Sims jackets, all the base layers they're going to need for the week, wading socks, anything they'd need for when they go home. So they all get a Sims fishing pack with all the right equipment they're going to need in there. They get a sage rod and reel to keep, and a full box of tackle for the flies that are relevant to them. If
That's
something,
amazing. I'm
this
sure
is
Sims.
something that's cool.
I'm sure Sims is
Yeah,
more than
Sims
happy
is
to
an
do that
amazing
for you guys.
partner. Yeah, they've been with us since day one, and can't speak more highly of our partnership with them. They're just so generous in the early days. I've heard stories of if something didn't fit. We have people of all different sizes that come through our programs, and sometimes waders can be small, medium, large, but they're not taking into consideration some of the ailments that some warriors have that come through our program. Maybe a missing
Right.
leg, or maybe a missing arm, or whatever it may be. And so in the early days, they used to run down to the Sims shop or warehouse, and they'd sew it up to be just perfect for the week for the warriors. And so we still do that. If something doesn't fit perfectly, we will have a representative drive back up to the ranch with the correct sizing. We really want to make sure that people are using this should they want to when they get home, and that the size or the fit isn't stopping them from that. So they do a full tutorial on how their gear works as well. The Sims representatives are always so helpful with that and informative. I always learn something about how I should store my waders or wash my neoprene, things like that. I always love sitting in on those. And then they have the afternoon to kind of rest and relax, recoup. Some have been traveling from the East Coast since super early in the morning. And they just get to enjoy and take this deep breath at Quiet Waters Ranch. And then Tuesday is our Fly Fishing 101 day. So they're greeted in the morning with a fresh breakfast from the moms who wake up extremely early to get breakfast done. And they have typically our Fly Fishing 101 day will happen on still water, so on ponds. That happens either at our ranch, or we partner with a lot of private landowners in the the Gallatin Valley that allow us to use their property. And as you know, Seth, it's so much easier to learn how to cast a rod and watch a fly on flat water than like a raging river. So we really do set them up for
100%.
success. Each warrior for the week is partnered with a volunteer companion that's with them for the entire week. That's kind of the right-hand man who's netting the fish, getting water, sunscreen, fixing waders if they need be. Not necessarily fishing, but just kind of there as the companion for the week. And then every warrior is also partnered with a professional guide. So they're the 3 of them kind of work together all week to learn, enjoy, and yeah, just have good experience together. So that Tuesday, they learned from the guide how to set up their entire rig, from spooling in the line to setting up the right knots and the right flies. They do some casting in the yard, and then after lunch, they are fishing and usually catching, which is exciting. It's always really inspiring and just such a joy to see that first, like we talked about earlier, that adrenaline of that first hook set. It's really special to watch. So
Do you see that
yeah, that's
a lot of
Tuesday.
warriors
Oh
come in
yeah,
have experience already with fly fishing, or is it most new to them?
that's a great question. I don't know the percentage, but we definitely have some. I would say a lot of warriors that come through have fished, grew up fishing, enjoy fishing as a pastime, but not too many have fly fished, let alone have a lot of experience in it. I always find it kind of cool when we have somebody who lives in fly fishing territory or trout territory, and they had no idea about it, and then they get to go home and experience their backyard in such a unique new way.
Right.
That's always makes me really happy. So
No, 100% I agree. Back in my guiding days, I used to absolutely love taking out first timers because not only do they get a little bit more excited, when they do figure it out and catch a fish, but then they're also excited to take those lessons they've learned and um, go back to their home waters or wherever it may be and practice it on their own. So it was always extremely eventful. So I can imagine the guides over there get the same feeling that I used to, but probably even a little bit better. That's amazing.
yeah. Well, and there's always the thing about beginner's luck, right? And I'm not saying that
Oh
pertains
yeah.
to the guys or gals, but like when I go out with somebody who just started, I'm like, "How are you out fishing me? What am I doing wrong?"
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely real. I've experienced it plenty of times.
Yep.
As
Yeah.
you
So
guys,
just
you
to,
guys do a
oh, go
little bit
ahead.
more than just fly fishing, though. Is that correct? Obviously, you had mentioned earlier some other ice fishing and things like that for the alum, but I believe I've also seen elk hunting, and just hikes and things like that. What other sorts of activities do you guys kind of do day to day?
Yeah, so you just mentioned the hunting. We last year just launched Hunt for Purpose, which in the same avenue that Eric Hastings, our founder, founded Warriors in Quiet Waters to use fly fishing as a tool for healing, and finding drive and direction. Our current CEO, Brian Gilman, who he started just before I did, so about 3.5 years ago, he um, retired from the military to come to Warriors in Quiet Waters and has been nothing but the best leader that I've ever seen and worked under. But for him, his retreat when back from service and back from deployments was always heading to the mountains and being in elk country. He grew up in Butte, Montana, and so he grew up an elk archery hunter. And for him, his peace and his quiet and his things that rejuvenate him are found up in elk territory. For him, it's out in Montana, but I'm sure he could find it anywhere. And so
Oh yeah.
when he first started, his dream was to have a program that mirrored what we do with our fly fishing, but was for alumni who were wanting to do something a little bit longer. This was before we launched our Built for More program that was 8 to 12 months. So we used Hunt for Purpose last year almost as an inaugural program to test what it would look like for warriors to be with us for 12 months, but then also use little bit of a different conduit, in the same, or a different sport in the same way. So that Hunt for Purpose program, they were actually just out here, or they're out here today. Actually, they're out here this week.
Oh
It's a
wow.
3-week long program. So over the span of a year, they come out here 3 different times. Once in April, where they do it's kind of the Hunt for Purpose initial hunting week, where they're outfitted with all their gear. They're learning about some things that they can practice for the next 6 months before the hunt. And they're also meeting their cohort and their volunteers that are out there with them. They do some hiking. They also do a about an 8 month long fitness program through the program Mountain Tough, which I have only seen videos of them doing this, and it looks exhausting just watching that. So I cannot imagine training for this. But then they're out here this week doing what we call boot camp. So they're up at 4:30 every morning doing those group workouts through the gym here in town. I know yesterday they were out at a ranch doing a day-long scouting trip. For this program this week, they're actually out in front of the lodge, not staying in the lodge, but they're using their tents so that they can dial in all their gear for when they come back in September. And the cohort of 6 will split into 2 and go on 2 different hunt trips. So there'll be just 3 guys to each hunt trip on 2 separate properties or areas. Last year, one was in the Bob Marshall Wilderness is where they hunted with one group, and then another was a private landowner property that was generous enough to have us out there. So they do everything from the physical fitness, they do journaling, so they're kind of dabbling in that purpose-driven spiritual fitness. They're pretty dialed on their nutrition. And some of the testimonies that came out of last year's program were just amazing from not only the warriors themselves, but their spouses and their families and their colleagues from work, just seeing that ultimate change and giving them a purpose for what they want to do with their lives. So it's been really cool to see it a year and a half now in action. And this year there's 4 guys on the cohort and 2 women, which is just super, excuse my language, but badass to have them out here. And I'm really
badass.
excited to see it all unfold in September. So, and Seth, it's never about getting, like from the beginning, it hasn't been about getting a fish in the net or an elk on the ground. That is the cherry on top. If that happens, I think the things that come out of these programs, whether it's fishing or canoeing or backpacking, are so much bigger than what happens at the end of the day.
100%. And I absolutely love the variety that you guys provide to these warriors, whether it's through fitness, fishing, hunting, basically any sort of piece or serenity that you're able to provide, you guys offer, and it's amazing. And like you said, it's not at all about, landing the fish or getting the elk. It's about the journey and lessons you learn, while doing that. I used to always, when I was younger, I grew up hunting as well, and my dad would typically pull me out for 1 week out of school, and it was always a little bit of an argument between him and my mother on whether that was okay. Obviously, I wanted to go, but my mom wanted me in school, and my father would always use the argument that you'll learn a lot more in a week out in the woods with, your dad and your uncle than you will in a week in a standard school day. And that's always stuck with me because the lessons that you learn out there and the things you learn about yourself and about nature, they're irreplaceable. And it's only a feeling you can get in doing something like that. So the fact that you guys provide that sort of lessons and feelings to these people is truly amazing.
Yeah, it sounds
So,
like you understand it. Just something about wandering around the woods that just teaches you something. It's so hard to explain.
right, right. It's some sort of feeling that honestly we just wanted to share with as many people as possible. Um, that's part of the reason why we started our company GoGuide, is to not only help, people in the industry make a better living doing what they love, but just get more people around the world connected with the outdoors, um, and this peace of mind that you can get by being outdoors. So, absolutely loved the partnership that we've had with you guys. Love contributing to the cause as much as possible, and hope to continue to do so down the road, for much longer. I would love to talk about any kind of future plans you guys have. Obviously, you guys just did the huge rebranding, which is amazing. I love the logo, by the way. I might have to get some of that gear, start repping you guys myself. But any other future plans you guys got going on for Words and Quiet Waters?
Oh, so many. I think our rebrand was this big, deep breath that we were able to say, ah, it's done. But with anything, right? Once it's not done, I think it's really just started for us on this rebrand and being able to tell our story. I think our initiatives right now are set pretty nationally. We serve warriors from at a national level. We have donors from every state of the U.S., volunteers from most states of the U.S., and so I would say that our future kind of lies in hosting events around the country. We'll have to talk about this, but you and some of your colleagues are running a race to support Warriors in Quiet Waters, which is just amazing and extremely inspirational. And so I'd say our vision is just set on this nationwide audience. So we're really excited that we feel now our brand is on board with that. And we also have a couple fundraising events coming up. If anyone listening's in the Montana area, on September 8th, we
Yeah,
have our
let's talk
largest
about those.
annual fundraiser. Yeah, we have Warrior Taste Fest, which is a hoot and a half of an event. It's on a Friday night at our local fairgrounds. We bring in 30 restaurants, breweries, and distilleries from around Montana, and they're all competing for the Best Under the Big Sky award. So they're all showing up with their best cocktail samples, their best beer samples, and their best food samples. And
I'm
everyone
sold.
goes around the fairgrounds and samples. I know, it's so fun. We've got live music. And then amongst all of that chaos, we also have 12 renowned Western artists and now nationally known artists that are quick finishing some of their work to be auctioned off later in the evening. So then we have a pretty big, robust auction that includes this art that's been quick finished at the event. And then we have, I think, about 7 live auction packages, which I'm extremely excited to watch those because some of the ones we've got a private day flight in a World War II seaplane to fly into private
Oh,
fishing
wow.
lakes in Montana. We've got one in the works that I don't know if I can actually say it on here yet, so I'll pause on it, but once it's live, I will send it to
Yeah,
you. We've
there we
got
go.
some private dinners with some professionals and things of that nature, some ski days with professional skiers, outfit head to toe with gear, some fun things like that. Really, with our live auction packages, we try and aim for things that you couldn't just go out to the store and get or couldn't buy the experience without bidding. So that fundraiser fully supports our programs and is a decent size of our operating budget every year. So we're always so excited for all the vendors and the sponsors that help support that event.
What was the date and name of that event one more time for everybody listening?
Yeah, it's September 8th, and it's at the Gallatin County Fairgrounds in Bozeman, and it's called Warrior Taste Fest.
That's amazing. Yeah. The sponsors of fundraising events like that, amazing people, just being able to put together a sort of community, where people can all come together and celebrate and support this amazing cause. It means a lot and it does a lot for our warriors out there.
Mhm.
As far as our race goes, I would like to talk about that a little bit. You had
Yeah,
mentioned that.
I want to
So
know.
we obviously I told you a little bit, but it's actually coming up July 29th. So we're a little under 3 weeks out now. For those who don't know, myself, my partner Phil, my partner Carter, are running in the Badger 100, which is a Wisconsin ultra marathon, 100 miles. And we have set up a fundraiser essentially for anybody who wants to make a donation. We're doing donation per mile that we finish because, to be completely honest with you, none of us had even ran a regular marathon until about 4 months ago. So we had all decided to aim big for a goal and push each other along the way. So we don't necessarily know 100% if we're going to finish it, but we're going to give everything we got to try. Um, and yeah, essentially anybody that would like to help out this fundraiser, can go to our website, therealblog.com, and there's a donation sheet, sign up, and essentially donate, whether it's cents or a dollar or a couple dollars per mile that we finish. It's all going to be going to the Warriors of Quiet Waters Foundation. So we're incredibly excited about that. It's going to be a long journey. We've been trying to train pretty tough, but now that we're a little under 3 weeks, we're really starting to feel the pressure. So we're excited to be doing it.
You're probably pretty close to tapering time then, huh?
We are,
The
we
best part
are.
of racing.
This week has been, we did our peak run actually about a week ago of 50 miles, which was pretty insane. Honestly, just doing that, I've already accomplished more than I thought I could before setting out upon this journey. So I'm already winning a little bit there, but we have begun to kind of taper down a little bit since then. Yeah, trying to make sure our bodies are fully recovered by the time of race day.
Yeah, that is so amazing. You, Phil, and Carter are extremely, as I mentioned, that's just such an inspiration.
Definitely a little bit crazy, as most people would say,
Yeah.
but
What
as
is,
long as it's
can I
crazy for a
ask what
good cause.
inspired you guys?
You
Right.
know, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects. Obviously, our partnership began kind of before that, and really just through talking with you and talking with Carter. Um, we have, family member veterans that are veterans and warriors, and me personally understand, a lot about why you guys do what you do because I've been able to relate it even to things in my personal life, struggles that I've been through mentally, emotionally, and been able to get out on the water and really see how that cures. Um, that's really what sparked me to go with you guys as far as, running for a cause and running for a purpose. How we chose the 100-mile ultra race, it was always kind of like this giant mountain that we had always talked about, climbing, but it was always kind of a joke. We could never really do it, but it would be cool if we tried. And then those two kind of stars aligned, and we decided to go for it. So um, it's actually kind of funny because Carter and I had decided that we were going to sign up for the 100-miler, and Phil is not really a runner, but he expressed that he was not going to be sitting at a bar with us, a year down the road, and we're going to be talking about how we ran this race, and he wasn't going to be able to say that he did too. So he signed up on the spot, whether he wanted to or not. He's in. So
That's funny. Yeah, FOMO is quite the drug, right?
yeah, yeah, 100%,
That's so cool
100%.
though. You guys are gonna do so great. And however we can support you over on our end, we are just super excited. And I'll definitely be sending you guys some care packages before the race in case you wanna have anything for that. But yeah, we're really excited to kind of watch it unfold. We won't be there in person, but excited to hear a recap days after you guys have recovered.
Yeah, I'm sure we're gonna be bedridden for a while after, but we'll be sure to keep you guys updated with our progress. And yeah, I would absolutely love to get some Warriors and Quiet Waters logos as we run. It'd be absolutely amazing. As for just to bring it back a little bit, I did have a question that came to my mind as you were explaining some of the day-to-day processes there. With how warriors out there who haven't, worked with you guys, whether they hear, from your guys' advertising or possibly through our fundraiser, hopefully, how they could get signed up with you guys, what kind of the first touch basis looks like, and what that process entails.
Yeah, so to apply to be a participant on our programs, we open our application, I want to say late fall every year, for the next year. They do fill up pretty quickly, but we have a pretty intensive review process of our applications to ensure all the correct people, or I shouldn't say the correct people, the people with the highest need, are able to be served every year. So if anybody is interested in participating as a participant, as a warrior, post 9/11 combat veteran, they can go to our website. And I believe right now we have the link to sign up to be notified when our application for next year opens. And then once that opens, you'll just simply submit an application online. You'll have to also submit your DD 240. I'm messing that up, but submit your records, and we are quickly in touch after that. And then we do placements pretty quickly for next year, so that people can, one, be aware of when they need to mark on their calendar and the time commitments, and then also so we can set up volunteer positions. But if anybody listening would like to be a volunteer on one of our programs, as I mentioned, they're 99% volunteer run programs. We have about 12 to 20 volunteers every week out here helping out. And to do that, you can just go to our website under the volunteer tab. You can apply to be a volunteer. And our volunteer manager will get in touch to do a short little interview to make sure that we're placing you in the right position. And then we go from there. So our volunteer positions also kind of fill up quickly, which is a beautiful curse. But we're always looking for volunteers, whether it's here in Bozeman for a day-long event that we're hosting or some help around the office, or it's the full week on a program.
Is typically everything you do going to be in Bozeman, or do you guys ever have any sort of little events to other places around the United States or anywhere?
Program-wise, we're primarily in Montana. We just this spring did we tried out a capstone program down in Islamorada in the Keys in Florida. It was a saltwater trip, and it was very successful, not only because Montana is frozen over in February, but it allowed us to explore what a different type of programming looks like, to engage warriors that might not live in freshwater areas where they are river fishing, but maybe if they're living in more saltwater areas where they'd want to learn the skills of saltwater fishing, that was a great option for them as well. So program-wise, we're in Florida, but we also host little fundraising events or get-togethers all across the country. So the best way to find out about those would be to sign up for our e-newsletter, which you can do right on our homepage of our website.
Amazing. Yeah, that the Islamorada program sounds pretty great. I've got the experience to go down there, and it's an amazing time, especially when it's freezing cold in Montana. You can't beat the 70-degree weather in Florida.
Definitely.
Well, Liz, this has been absolutely amazing. Can't thank you and your organization enough for the amazing work that you guys do with all the warriors out there. And I hope anyone who listens to this who's interested in the program goes to Warriors in Quiet Waters website, read about what they do, sign up if that's what you'd like. I'd absolutely recommend it, whether you're volunteer or warrior. And the work that they do is truly amazing. So thank you guys enough.
Well, Seth, I need to say thank you to you and your entire GoGuide team too. It's been such a exciting partnership to launch with you, and just to see your website come to evolution or to fruition, and with your guys' little side run here as well. It's been really, we're just excited to be partners and excited to see what comes. I think our organizations align really well and support each other well. So I just want to say thank you. Thanks to Santao for making this connection
Shout
too.
out.
We wouldn't be here. So it's been such a fun time chatting with you and getting to spend some time sharing about Warriors in Quiet Waters. I want to thank everyone for listening, and you're always welcome to reach out to me. My information's on our Warriors in Quiet Waters website, or anyone on our team's more than happy to help with any questions you might have.